I have literally sat with my jaw on the floor, learning this stuff, going, how do we not know this? How can this information be available in a quite expensive course that I've paid to do that gives me the information? Why is this not more broadly available?
Hi, I'm Dr. Jodi Richardson, and this is, well, hello anxiety. In a world that often moves too fast, we're here to pause, breathe, and understand anxiety together. Each episode will explore practical strategies, share honest conversations, and uncover the science behind anxiety and well-being, all while creating a space where it's okay to not be okay. Let's continue this journey together. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. It is just so delightful today to welcome back a guest who has changed my life ever since I first met Sarah. And I was literally just telling someone about that yesterday, and that's because Sarah Rusbatch has been a podcast guest for us here at, well, Hello Anxiety twice now. And so we're very lucky to have her back again. When I first met Sarah, and if you haven't listened to that first episode, please go back and have a listen after you've listened to today's conversation. But when I first met Sarah, we were talking about grey area drinking. And Sarah does a lot of incredible work in this area as well as in supporting women in midlife, which we'll learn more about today. But as a quick recap for those of you who are not aware, it was really that conversation that got me thinking, hey, I don't know if I want alcohol to continue to be a part of my life. And I kind of toyed with the idea, thought about it, interviewed Sarah again, and then ultimately decided that no, I don't want alcohol to be a part of my life. And so had I not met you, Sarah, I wouldn't be where I am today with that choice, which just has such a huge impact on my sleep and my anxiety and my general health. And so yeah, another big thank you to you. So Sarah's joining us from Perth in Western Australia. And Sarah, I wonder if for listeners who haven't heard our conversation previously, if you could please just share, just I guess a little bit about kind of where you're at and what you're doing so that listeners can go, right, how can this amazing woman that I'm listening to maybe support me in my life? And then I want to dive a little bit deeper into your story. So maybe just a bit of an overview of what it is that you're doing these days and how you're supporting women all over the world, not just here in Australia.
Yeah, thank you, Jodi, and thank you so much for having me again. It's always such a pleasure to have the opportunity to catch up with you and to be a guest on your incredible podcast, and watching the work that you've been doing over the last few years and the incredible speakers that you get to bring into your podcast and share with your listeners is just amazing. So well done to you.
Thank you.
So for the ladies listening, well, all your audience listening, my focus is I have two key areas of focus. So one is grey area drinking, where I support people to change their drinking habits. And grey area drinking describes people who don't describe themselves as alcoholics. So people who don't have end stage physical dependency on alcohol. They don't need rehab to stop drinking. They don't need to be under medical supervision to safely withdraw from alcohol. But they do notice that their alcohol use has been creeping up. It's become unhealthy. It's taking more than it's giving. But they've got perhaps an emotional reliance on it. And it's not as easy as simply going, I'll just cut back. I'll just drink less, because it turns out that once you've got into the grey area, it's not easy to just reverse backwards and go from being a 6 or 7 out of 10 drinker to being a 2 or 3 out of 10 drinker. So I specialize in that area. My book came out last year, Beyond Booze, and that's gone incredibly well in terms of just supporting more and more people to understand their relationship with alcohol and how to change it. But something else that I became really interested in, and I guess because the demographic that I mostly work with is midlife women, because we know that the demographic that are most likely to be grey area drinkers are midlife women, is I became really curious, and because I'm 49 as well, about understanding the transition in our hormones at this stage and how it goes on to impact our mental, physical and emotional well-being when we're having experiences of fluctuating hormones, perimenopause and everything like that. So in 2023, I trained with Dr. Wendy Sweet in New Zealand to become a menopause coach. And in 2024, I did my coach training to become a menopause weight loss coach, because I see that that's something that women really struggle with at this stage, of understanding how to support themselves nutritionally to be in their best health as they're aging. And then I've also done a couple of other courses. So I'm really focusing still on the alcohol piece, but also on the mental, physical, and emotional well-being for midlife women as we're aging, and just love it.
Oh goodness! And you're just doing such incredible work, and the passion just shines through. And isn't it incredible to think, as a midlife woman, I am one as well, on the other side of 50 at 51. So it's there are so many changes, and it's a really exciting time of life in lots of ways. But there are also those challenges that we're all faced with, and often we're the busiest in our lives with our kids if we're parents, or supporting other people around us whose health might be declining, maybe our own parents or grandparents, even if they're still around, if you're lucky enough, and so much going on, but also dealing with our own sort of what's termed second puberty, and trying to manage changing weight, shape, energy, mood, emotions, anxiety. It's a lot, and so I love the way that you've combined what you've done. You've seen this beautiful demographic that has benefited so much from the support that you give around grey area drinking. And it just makes sense, doesn't it? Because we're complex beings, and there are many pieces to our individual puzzles, and you're able to address so much of that in the work that you're doing. And it comes from a very personal place, doesn't it? For people who haven't listened to previous episodes and had the benefit of kind of getting to know kind of your story, can you just share with there's so much I know about you that I just want to give away. I'm really excited, by the way, I just have to say this, that Sarah has an invitation to the London Marathon, because you are now a marathon runner, which is just extraordinary. You weren't always so healthy, so well, so fit, so active. Can you tell our listeners kind of what's really driving this work that you do? What's really underneath it all, or even just how you got started in the first place?
Yeah, I think for me, there's this real drive, because I have turned my health around so dramatically through quite simple changes that I want to shout it from the rooftops to support women to be able to know that we don't always need to overcomplicate it. And actually going back to the basics, it's the stuff that we know, but it's consistency with the basics that makes such a difference, with a few extra tweaks along the way. Yeah. And so just to share a wee bit of my story, I was always a grey area drinker. I'd always used alcohol in quite a dysfunctional way. And I finally decided to take a break from alcohol in 2017, and could not believe the difference. I thought I'd do a 21-day reset just to see, they say it takes 21 days to break a habit. And I thought, I've just got a bad habit with alcohol. I just need to take a 21-day break and then I'll be fixed. And some of the consequences I was experiencing as a result of my drinking was very bad anxiety, was very sluggish liver, which meant I had estrogen dominance, which meant that I was putting on a lot of weight around the tummy. I was having a very heavy menstrual cycle. I was having very bad mood swings with PMS. I had really bad skin. I was really struggling with sleep. So there was a lot of things that were starting to happen in my 40s that didn't happen in my 20s when it came to alcohol. In my 20s, I could have a night out, 3 hours sleep, get up, have a can of Diet Coke, a packet of crisps, a couple of paracetamol, and go and do it all again after a full day's work. And then into my 40s, it was like, that's not cutting it anymore. I think I need to make some changes. Yeah. So I took that break in 2017, intending to do 21 days. I did 100 days. I could not believe the difference. Like, the anxiety disappeared, the weight dropped off, the sleep improved, the energy increased, the mood improved. But it got back to the 100 days. And then I was like, oh, well, I can't never drink again. Like, that would just be weird, because I'm Sarah the party girl. Yeah. So I know what I'll do. I'll go and I'll be a moderate grown-up drinker now. So now I've done 100 days. I'll be one of those ladies that just has a glass of wine once a month when having a nice dinner and doesn't think about alcohol in between, and it's all fine. Yeah. But it turns out for grey area drinkers, the door is either open or it's closed. And when you even have the door even 2 centimeters ajar, that gives the door permission to go flying open again. And for me, as soon as I had that one drink of deciding I'm just going to be a grown-up drinker and have my glass of wine at a wedding or whatever it is, the alcohol use crept back up. And before I knew it, it was back to where it had been before. So in 2019, I stopped drinking completely and just decided everything in my life is better when I don't drink. So I'm going to shut that chapter. I'm going to shut that door and I'm going to start living a different life.
Yeah.
And I was 43 at the time. So it's been 6.5 years now. And at 49, I feel like everything up till now has just been the warm up. And I feel like next year turning 50, it's so beautiful for me. I've tried to get into London Marathon. I can't tell you how many times. And to finally this for 2026, to have the invitation to run it just a few weeks after my 50th, to get the opportunity to go back to my beautiful hometown, see all my friends and family, to run the streets of London, which have just got so much of my history, having lived there for so many years and really transformative years of my life. And to run it with one of my best friends in the whole world is just like going to be a dream come true. And to me, that just goes to show that this is just the beginning. How you age, getting excited about how you age is a lot to do with mindset, attitude, but also how you're looking after your physical body to allow yourself to have the experiences emotionally and mentally that you want to have.
We are such kindred spirits, Sarah, because I feel the same. I don't think I've ever felt fitter, stronger, more confident about my body image, so our body image is the way we feel about the way we look. I put on this shirt, listeners, you won't be able to see unless you have a look at the shorts on Instagram, but I've got this shirt on. It's a beautiful, just sort of striped shirt, and I put it on today, and it felt just a little tighter, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my back is getting stronger. That was my immediate thought, because I lift a lot of weights. I love it. And never in my life would I have put on something fat and had my clothing feel a little bit tighter and had that response to it. And so, looking at you, Sarah, you're absolutely glowing. Your skin's so beautiful and clear. You're vibrant. You've got so much energy. And look, I'm sure, you have a lot of friends who are, similar age to you, as do I, constantly talking about so many of the challenges that come with this kind of stage in our life. But there's so much to be excited about. But there might be a listener or two sort of thinking, oh my gosh, well, it's all very well and good for you guys to say, because you must really enjoy exercise, and, giving up alcohol sounds really overwhelming. And I've got so many other challenges. And like, we both fully appreciate that as a life stage and a life situation. What would you say to the woman listening who is sort of thinking, look, I would love to have this kind of outlook and to feel so much better and to feel super excited about this next chapter, but feels just like I just don't know where to start. What would you say?
Yeah, and I think that's a really valid way to feel, right? If you, I imagine how I would feel listening to you and me talking if I was back where I was. I'd probably be like, oh, well, it's all, I'd either make excuses as to why I couldn't have what the other people had, or I would just feel so overwhelmed because I wouldn't know where to start. It's about starting with where you're at and just recognizing you and I have not made these changes overnight. You and I did not go, I'm going to ditch booze, eat really well, prioritize exercise, run a marathon, get PBs at CrossFit, all of these things. They didn't happen overnight. It is a process. Yeah. And it's a process of becoming the version of you that you want to be. But with that process, we have to be patient. Mm. And one of my most favorite quotes, and one that I had written above my computer for a really long time, was, be patient when becoming a version of yourself you've never met before.
Oh, I just got goosebumps, Sarah. That is everything that a woman needs to remember. Be patient. Can you repeat that? I don't want to get it wrong.
Be patient when becoming a version of yourself you've never met before.
Wow. Yeah.
It's beautiful, right?
Isn't it?
And so it's about recognizing we might have 3 or 4 things that we want to change. but don't try and change everything at once. So if, for me, the change started with alcohol, like ditching, and that's where I meet most people. I've supported over 10,000 women to change their relationship with alcohol. And that's the starting point. But I've then gone on to help them with nutrition, with movement, with anxiety, with sleep, with managing their menopause symptoms, with everything else. But we just start with the starting point. So for some people, it's there's usually, I see it being one of two places to start. It's usually either emotional eating and binging on sort of the sugar and biscuits and using food in that way, or it's using alcohol in that way. And I see that as being a case for a lot of women, because we are stressed, overwhelmed, tired. We haven't perhaps been great at setting boundaries, carrying stories from our past around that what's been role modeled to us was that the mum and the woman needs and should do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But also the generations before us were not working in the way that we're working, having the financial pressures that we have, and the expectation is just completely different. So while what's role modeled to us from our mothers, grandmothers, aunties might be one way of doing life, it's not always that's how we do life today, because we've got so much more on our plate. So starting with alcohol can be a great place to start if you feel that you're curious about how you might feel with taking a break from booze. There's a brilliant book called Tiny Experiments. And in that book, the lady talks about see your life as an opportunity to have experience all these tiny experiments to work out what works for you. Because I think we live in a world where we've got exposure to so much social media and so many experts in inverted commas going, eat this, do this should be your morning routine, this should be your night routine, and this is what works. But it's like, no. We need to be discerning with the information that we take on board and go, that person said that they don't like fasting and that they feel better when they have breakfast. I'm going to try and see how I feel having breakfast. That person said they do like fasting. Like we've got to take the information with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
And also apply it to ourselves and just see it as these little experiments. Did it work? Do I feel better? We've got to, I always encourage the ladies that do my 30-day alcohol-free challenges to keep a wee journal and just to record, well, what's my sleep like? What's my energy like? What's my mood like? What's my patience like with my kids? What's my mental health like? Like, record it. Don't just do it like blind on autopilot and see it as a punishment. Oh God, I've got to do 30 days off booze. It's going to be rubbish.
Yeah.
See it as an experiment and do that with lots of things in your life so that you get to create a picture of, this is what works for me and my body, because we're all different.
We are all different. We are. And I love the idea of that, because it's about bringing a perspective of curiosity. There's no, I must, I should, I have to. It's just like, I'll just try this and I'll see how I feel. And I know when I decided to give up drinking, really the number one thing that it affected was my sleep. And when I don't sleep well, like most people, when you don't sleep well, especially if you have an anxiety disorder like I do, it wreaks havoc. And I just knew every time I would have a drink, and I guess that's the other thing, is start to tune in to how you feel when you are making some of these choices. That if you do drink, I would know that I'd feel restless, I'd toss and turn, I'd wake up feeling exhausted, regretful, and just low mood, unmotivated, and blah. And I didn't want to feel like that anymore. And so this idea of being curious and it being an experiment, there's no rules, but it can be hard to, I know you've always said, keep the ritual, replace the ingredient. No, how do you say it?
Keep the ritual, change the ingredient.
Keep the ritual, change the ingredient. See, so much of what you've said has really stuck with me, Sarah. I'm paraphrasing every now and again, but I really think that is a really manageable way. And to start somewhere, start small, don't change everything at once, and have that attitude of curiosity. I was having a chat at CrossFit last night. Literally, Sarah, I was just saying to Sarah before we went on air that somebody who I train with actually used to rent, her name's Helen, used to rent one of Sarah's flat in Clapham North in England, which is just the most unbelievable coincidence. And we're all talking about alcohol. And one of the women I train with mentioned that she'd taken a whole year off and had then returned. And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because she'd returned to drinking and is now contemplating once again kind of letting it go. And she said she always felt like the grass would be greener, like having had the year off, coming back to it and sort of thinking, I'm really missing out. But she said the first drink that she had, she sort of realised, you know what, actually, I'm not really missing out on as much as she felt the grass would be greener back with alcohol, but it wasn't. So, yeah, it's just, there's so much that, like, these conversations are really powerful. People are really thinking about making change, and there's so much to be gained from it. I know you've done a lot of studies in the last couple of years around menopause, and weight gain, and I wonder what surprised you the most. You've obviously learned so much. What surprised you the most about the training that you did to support women in midlife with menopause or perimenopause?
I have literally sat with my jaw on the floor, learning this stuff, going, how do we not know this? How can this information be available in a quite expensive course that I've paid to do that gives me the information? Why is this not more broadly available? I did, not to get on my feminist rant, but I will just say that I learned somewhere that there is something like 10 times the amount of funding that goes into male baldness than goes into endometriosis.
Ooh.
And
okay,
yeah,
I'll get on that rant with you.
we'll park that there, just to say that there's a lot of information. So the fact that women don't know, they become more insulin resistant, which basically means we cannot metabolize starch and sugar after our 40s like we can in our 20s and 30s. So if we're not careful with what we're eating and the timing of when we're eating, we're going to really struggle with weight gain, with low mood, and with sleep, and putting ourselves more at risk of some of the other longer term health risks that come with inflammation. I didn't know that naturally, when our hormones start decreasing, we get gut dysbiosis, because our gut microbiome are a certain way when we are producing estrogen and progesterone, and this starts to change when we are having fluctuating hormones. And this gut dysbiosis can lead to a lot of changes in gut health, which can lead to mental health, and everything like this. I learned that we should never, ever be outside walking with sunglasses on first thing in the morning, because the retina is the part of the eye that basically sets your circadian rhythm. So when I'm out walking in the morning, if I see a lady over 40 with sunglasses on, I want to go up to her and take the sunglasses off, because what you do in the morning and exposing your eyeball to natural sunlight will set your circadian rhythm to help you with sleep at night. Like there is so much of these little hacks that are out there about working with gut health and really increasing your fiber, about massively reducing your sugar, your processed foods, and your starchy carbs, about getting morning sunlight. I learned something the other day that said, if about 100 years ago, the average person was spending 85% of their day outdoors, guess what that percentage is now for the average person? I
don't know this stat, but I'm going to say it's 10%.
7.
It's 7. Okay. Yeah. Do you know, Sarah, I've recently started wearing a Whoop strap, and every day, and I absolutely love it. The data I'm getting about myself and the way it's motivating more changes in my lifestyle is extraordinary. And one of the things that I do every day is I complete the journal, and it asks me how long I've been outside. And I sometimes, I feel a bit embarrassed to admit this, but sometimes I'm like, did I go outside? Like, I took the kids to school, I come back, I sat at my desk all day. I do get up and do things during the day to kind of break up the sitting. But then I'm like, okay, then I went and picked up the kids, and then I came and did some more work, and then I went and dropped somebody at a casual job or at sports training, and it's like CrossFit is indoors, outdoors sometimes, and sometimes on the days I'm not doing CrossFit, I'll go for a walk and then I will be outside. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to change this because this is not natural, it's not healthy, and it's really going to be, certainly if I can change it, will have a really positive impact on my mental health, and my circadian rhythm, and just generally my well-being. And so, yeah, I do believe it, and I feel like this is something that I want to do. I want to change for me as well. So, but shocking, 85% down to an average of 7% of the day. I wonder if you as a listener can relate to that. And that could be the one place we start. We all start. Yeah. So do you see that amongst the women that you work with, that that's a common theme?
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that low vitamin D impacts anxiety, yes. It reduces our serotonin, and it can impact our sleep. So like I've done an interview before with Dr. Libby Weaver, and she said something that really struck me. She said, the body has the most vitamin D receptors of anything in the human body. And she said, now, I don't know much, but I know this. If Mother Nature has put this many vitamin D receptors in our human body, she's trying to tell us something. And that is that our human body needs vitamin D.
Yeah.
And I was saying to a friend, like I ran my first marathon last year, and I would say that my mental health was the best it's ever been when I was training for that marathon. And it's a no-brainer. Of course, it makes sense because I was outside running. It was winter here. We're very lucky in Perth that our winters are, there's usually still sunshine and blue sky once it warms up enough. But that was a real thing for me to notice, the impact of having that time outside and what that has on our mental health. So something I get all my ladies to do is we know that our body will lower the glucose spike from food. Do you remember the first time we met and I was wearing my glucose monitor? Yes. We went out for that 3-course lunch and I said, well, I'm going to have chocolate cake because I'm going to see what this glucose spike is.
Yes.
And so we wear glucose monitors when we do my Thrive After 40 program, and they're brilliant ways to just start tracking what different foods will do in terms of that glucose spike. But we know that if you go for a 10-minute walk after eating, that just balances your glucose spike. So that's a great way of 2 for 1, right? You lower your glucose spike from your food and you're getting outside. And if we could choose, in an ideal world, it doesn't have to be long. Instead of having 1 walk a day, you would have 3 10-minute walks a day. 1 first thing in the morning, 10 before 10, to get that sunlight into the eyes. 1 in the middle of the day. So if you can, instead of working through your lunch, it would be go out, have your lunch, and then go, if it's for a 10-minute walk around the block. And then because that's when the sun is at the highest in the sky, and that's telling your eyeballs, because your eyes adjust to where the sun is actually coming into your eye, means that your brain can tell the time of day that it is and what it needs to be producing in terms of that time of day. And then at the end of the day, when the sun is setting, it's great if you can get outside for a 10-minute walk just when it's dusk, because again, that's starting to send messages to your brain. The sun's going to bed, it's going to be nearly time to start settling. But what we have to do then is we need to make our homes dark. So when it's dark outside, just get some of those really low wattage light bulbs and start making it calmer and darker, because what we've done in our wonderful modern technological world is we've got bright lights everywhere. So our beautiful brain is so confused because it's like, but it's dark outside, we're meant to be settling and I should be producing melatonin to help support me to fall asleep. Yes. But then it's just got all of these bright lights. So there's just little hacks like that really help with improving our sleep, because like you say, when we don't sleep, and I think everything goes to hell when we don't sleep. So like my mood, my negative thinking, my eating patterns, whether I go to the gym, all of that. Yes. You said the same as well.
Oh, so much. And it definitely affects our hormones and our satiety. And when we're underslept, we're tired, we will reach for more fatty, carbohydrate loaded, sugary foods. We just do. And one of the other things is that when we expose our eyes to direct sunlight early in the morning, as you say, the circadian rhythm is like, because sleep, it's just that foundation for everything else, is that we can then spike our morning cortisol, because our cortisol starts to rise in the morning as we wake. We usually wake naturally If we do, I always have an alarm and I always press snooze. I know I shouldn't. And then the cortisol peak, we can elevate that. And then as it comes down across over the day, 16 hours later, we're ready for bed. And that sort of, if we get this consistency in our sleep and exposure to light, it's just, there's, like you say, there are so many tweaks, hacks. They're all rooted in neurobiology and nervous system health and gut health. And we don't, like you said earlier about being discerning about, all right, there is an overload of information. It cannot all be trusted. It really cannot all be trusted. There are a lot of people who have a little bit of knowledge and often very well-meaning, but also if you're an athlete and you're talking about the strategies that you're using, that's very different if you're a 25-year-old athlete versus a 48-year-old perimenopausal woman. And so be discerning about where you get your information and about not trying to do too much at once, but also knowing that there are small, relatively small, low barrier to entry kind of changes that we can make that can have a really positive difference. And then tune into how you feel. Little experiment. Does it make a difference? And so, gosh, Sarah, you do work with women, and you do have your Thrive Over 40 program. And so what could people expect if they were working with you to kind of be supported and be part of a community, and not, because it's hard starting something new. There's a lot of anxiety often about, making change, and about kind of like, is this the right kind of support for me? Is this going to be something that is going to make a difference for me? For someone who's listening, who's thinking, if not now, when is often my kind of motto. Like, if not now, when? What am I waiting for? Somebody's thinking along those lines. What could they expect, and how does the support work in the groups that you are coaching?
Yeah, so there's 3 different programs that I'm currently really focusing on. So the first is my alcohol-free challenges, which, as you know, have supported thousands and thousands of women, and I run them 4 times a year. So January, April, July, October. Yeah. And that's a 30-day daily support, daily accountability, daily connection. There's a group of women who are all doing it together, and they're just incredible. So my next challenge, there'll be one in October and there'll be one in January. Yeah. And then I find a lot of ladies swap alcohol for sugar, and there's a couple of reasons for that. So number one, it's the dopamine hit. So the brain has been very used to a big dopamine hit from alcohol. And then we stop drinking. And so the brain is going, where's the dopamine coming from? What's the next quick, easy fix I can find? And so often it will be the ice cream, the biscuits, the chocolate. And I'll have ladies going, I've never had a sweet tooth before. And all of a sudden I'm like raiding the kids' Halloween sweets, trying to find some sugar. So if anyone has ever done an alcohol-free challenge and has noticed that, please know that that's really normal, and it does settle. And also I think the other thing is that alcohol is, many people are using it to numb, and they're using it as a reward, and they're using it as a way to perhaps not feel how they're feeling and to distract themselves. And if alcohol's been taken away, then we might then swap sugar for that. And it's about going, okay, that's fine. And I always say to my ladies at the start, that's fine. At the moment, we can work on the sugar later. Right now, we're just getting out of that habitual emotional reliance on alcohol. So then I find some ladies remove the alcohol and then they're very quickly ready to go onto the sugar. Some, it will be 8-9 months before they want to look at the sugar side of things. Yeah. And that's where we do my Thrive After 40 program. And that really is a focus on the physical well-being of women as we're aging, because what works for men doesn't work for women. What works for a 20-year-old woman doesn't work for a 40-year-old woman. So I have 2 modules on nutrition. There's one on sleep, there's one on movement, there's one on connection, and there's one on self. And so we really go into like looking at how we are looking after ourselves. But the biggest one is nutrition. We do a sugar-free challenge during that time. We're really adding in the protein, we're adding in the fiber. But more importantly, I bring in incredible guest experts to teach why. Because I find it so much easier to make the change I want to change when I understand why I'm doing this. And none of this is about diet culture. None of this is about I've got to make my body smaller to fit into what a man wants me to look like. And all of this is about healthy aging. And we know that 2 of the 4 most chronic diseases that kill the most people are 100% preventable through diet and lifestyle. And that is metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, and heart disease. And we know that the other 2 are very significantly reduced by lifestyle. And that's neurodegenerative disease, such as Alzheimer's and dementia, and cancer. So for me, all of this comes down to not what size is my body, but how healthy is my body as I'm aging. And we can think about, well, what health do I want to have when I'm 90? So what are the changes that I need to start making now? Because type 2 diabetes doesn't happen from one chocolate bar. Alzheimer's doesn't happen from one soft drink. It's years and years and years of the lifestyle choices we've been making. But it's also done with so much compassion, because none of it's our fault, because we live in a world where it's very quick and easy to grab the sugary food. And we live in a very confusing world. Like, my daughter came up to me in the supermarket and said, "Mum, can I have this drink? It's got a 5-star health rating." Now, my daughter knows we don't do liquid sugar in my life, in our household. It's something that we're very, like, liquid sugar, I've always been like a no-no. So she's got this drink, and it's got pictures of bananas and mangoes and apples and carrots on the front of it. It's got a 5-star government health rating. So I turned it round. Now, bearing in mind, for a kid, she's 14, we ideally don't want to be having more than about 15, 20 grams of sugar a day. Guess how much was in this one drink, Jodi?
I'm going to guess 25 grams.
69 grams of sugar in a drink that's got a 5-star health rating.
Oh my gosh. It's shocking.
And this is the stuff that when we know better, we do better. For ourselves and for our kids and our family and everybody that's in our life. And so none of it is about going, you must never have that. But it's about understanding, why is liquid sugar so bad? Why is liquid sugar worse than eating sugar? And so I bring experts in that really help us to understand, because I think when we understand it, it's so much easier to make the changes. I'm going, no, I just don't do liquid sugar. I know why. If I'm going to have something with sugar, I'm going to eat the calories so that it's slower digested. I'm going to consume the sugar in that way after I've had a meal, as opposed to just a massive hit of instant glucose that the body struggles so much to get that glucose out of the bloodstream. And that's where, like, we're getting all these cases of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that have never been seen in children before. And I know who you've interviewed Dr. Helena Popovich before, and she's talked a lot about this. And I think they had the youngest case in America was a 2-year-old with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Oh my gosh.
And this is what this is all a result of liquid sugar. And this isn't about blaming the parents, because if you've got a drink that's got a 5-star health rating, you're going to think, well, it's better to have that over a can of, like, Coke or whatever.
That's right.
So that's where I come in with helping ladies. I give them the support and the accountability, but I also provide the information as to why. And then we have a Facebook group where we share recipes, we support each other, we share our wins, we share when we're struggling. And so it's a really beautiful community. And I'll be running that again in November of this year. So that's a great place for people if they're wanting to kind of, reset some nutrition habits before Christmas and before silly season kicks off. Then again, that's a great place to start.
It really is. And one of the things that I really appreciate about this is that it's delivered with so much compassion. There's no finger pointing. There's no blame. We are a product of the environment in which we live and all of the messaging that we get. And like you say, when there's a 5-star rating on a children's drink that's 69 grams of sugar, it's insane. And people can feel really confused. Well, how am I supposed to know? Like, where am I supposed to turn? And who do I trust? And so I love that's part of the approach, because, for example, sedentary choices based on watching television and screen time and not moving as much and just being kind of hooked in by a lot of social media. Like it's designed. Supermarkets are designed to have, like if you do the perimeter of the supermarket, you're usually doing yourself sort of more favours than going into the middle aisles. But there's just so much that's tempting and quick and easy, and a lot of what we think or grew up thinking was healthy, like muesli bars, for example. There's information to learn, and I appreciate that you're teaching the information. You're helping people understand why. Like I drink so much more water now because I can see the difference it makes to my resting heart rate and my heart rate variability when I drink more water. And so I now understand exactly how much, when I'm drinking enough water, it's affecting the health of my heart. And not to mention the hydration of my cells and all the other important reasons to be drinking, but the why is important. So, Sarah, you're doing amazing work, and I know how passionate you are, and you've walked these roads. And so you're guiding not from a place of, well, you should do this. It's like, I've been there. I've had these challenges. I've faced them, and people can really trust that you understand the journey that they're on. So, how can people learn more about you and learn more about the programs that you're running? Where can they find you online?
Yeah, so the best place is to just head to my website, sarahrusbatch.com, or look for me on Instagram. I'm quite present on there with lots of information that I share, and that's just at Sarah Rusbatch. Easy.
Rusbatch, and we'll be cheering you on for your marathon for next year. My goodness, that's really exciting. Have you started training for that, Sarah?
No, so I'm just keeping my steady runs at the moment, but I'm doing a lot of strength training at the moment. So I was plagued with injury last year with Achilles tendonitis and things when I was training for my marathon. So I'm doing all my work with my podiatrist and physio now so that I can be as prevent as much of that as possible. So there's lots of strength work, building up the glutes, building up the calves. And so hopefully once the training then ramps up, I'm not looking forward to training through the Perth summer. That is one thing that's going to be quite tricky, doing those 3-hour runs in a 40-degree day. God. But I think I'll be I've just got a Whoop as well. So I can start working on what's going to work for me. Probably I'll be getting up at 4:35, doing my long run, and then probably having a power nap. Yoga Nidra has changed my life as just a midday power reset before getting through the afternoon and evening.
Non-sleep deep rest, it's the same, isn't it? Yes, yeah. Absolutely brilliant. That's a conversation for another day. But thank you for that little window. And of course, you're certainly not acclimatising in Perth to be prepared for a London marathon. Although they are having a heat wave over there. My brother lives there. He says, we're having a heat wave, it's 30. And I'm like, don't talk to me about a heat wave at 30, although the buildings do tend to hold the heat. So good luck to them. Good luck to them. Sarah, it's just always a joy to talk with you. Thank you for joining us today. And don't forget to check out all that Sarah can do to support you and the women in your life at sarahrusbatch.com. So thanks again, Sarah. Thank you for sharing this time with me on Well, Hello Anxiety. Remember, understanding anxiety is the first step to managing it. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Take things one moment at a time. Focus on what you can control and know that you are not alone on this journey. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. I'm Dr. Jodi Richardson, and I'll meet you right back here next week.